Welcome to the Hangin podcast with your hosts, Tyler Witt.
How about this block here by Tyler Witt? You're going to see him get out in front, and he's going to get a key block that springs this play.
Jack Coachman.
And here he is, having the time of his life.
And Ryan Sartori.
Maybe short, but he's thick.
That's thick with two C's at the end.
Welcome back and Happy New Year. It's episode 16 of the Hangin podcast. I'm Ryan Sartori. Jack Coachman's here. Tyler Witt is here as well. Gentlemen, how was your New Year's?
It was great. I had my best friend's wedding, so it was a great way to bring in the new year.
Yeah, what a day to have a wedding.
Yeah, it was quite the scenic day in Boise, Idaho. And
see, I told you he was in a different state. Jack and I were talking about it. I was like, is he going to be back for this?
I said I didn't remember. Wait, okay, this is like a super quick change. Wasn't there just like a crazy murder case in Idaho recently?
Yes, four kids were murdered.
College students or something?
Yeah, college students.
Yeah.
They caught the guy, though.
Yeah, I saw that on the news either yesterday or the day before. Just weird timing. I don't know too many people that are going to Idaho, but...
Yeah. But it was
the
very
wedding
beautiful.
was nice?
Yes, the service was beautiful. These two people they've been my friends since high school. Two of my closest friends, they got in a relationship during high school, and they've been dating since. And so it was like a long time coming, and it was awesome to see their love captured. And what a day to celebrate it! Like bringing in the new year, you'll never forget it.
Yeah. Now I don't obviously know your friends, these friends that got married, but like what a cool day to get married. Because like if you're not much of a drinker or partier, you don't like going out or whatever, like New Year's Eve as an adult can kind of be just kind of like bland. But if it's your anniversary, that makes it pretty cool.
True.
Yeah. Well, they were actually thinking about that too, because now they can, like, if they want, they can go crazy and have all these plans with people. And if not, they can be like, no, it's our wedding anniversary. I just want to do something private with them. So They kind of got the best of both worlds.
Wow. Yeah, you can hook people into your stuff, or you can opt out of their stuff. That's so smart.
And Jack, your New Year's was good as well?
Yeah. It was pretty relaxed. I didn't do too much for New Year's, but I had just been out of town for Christmas and stuff, so I was perfectly fine just hanging at home, talked to a couple friends during the day and stuff. But 2023, we're here.
Here we are.
Yeah. How was your New Year's, Ryan?
It was good. We did like a murder mystery type thing with some new friends from work. They ordered like this kit offline, and we all got together and drinks and stuff later. It was kind of a kerfuffle, but still very fun. The person who was supposed to die died too early. Then we had to resuscitate that person. And then that person that died actually didn't die at all. So It was fun. I think if we did it again and all members were the same, I think that we'd have a much more stable time with it. It was fun regardless, but I think that we would have a more easy run through of said murder mystery if we did it again. But it was a lot of fun. Rang in the new year. And
did you document the events? Did you guys record it or anything? Because I know Netflix just paid a ton of money for these Knives Out movies. And I don't know, the like died too early, didn't die, came back to life. Like that sounds like it could be a good movie there.
Yeah, no, we didn't record this, and it probably would not have been a good movie. I don't know if there was much of a plot for anybody to follow, but yeah, that was my New Year's. We rang in 2023 and then promptly went to bed. We were done and we're like, okay, see you guys. And we went to bed because I'm old, I guess. I don't know. So this is the year in review podcast. As promised, things are going to look a little bit different today. Things are going to feel a little bit different today, but it's going to be fun. We promise. We have some awesome awards put together, and we're going to do some segments, some year-end segments to close out the show as well. Gentlemen, 2022, a year in general comes with its triumphs, its strife, its ups and downs, right? But I want us to focus on the good stuff from this past calendar year. And so to start the show, let's do something a little familiar. Count your wins of the year. Anybody can go first.
No, that's good. I think my biggest win of the year is across different varieties of employment, unemployment, reemployment that I had. I started in March as a trivia host at a bar, and I had been playing bar trivia for years with friends. So I'm still hosting it every Wednesday at that same bar. And it's grown, you got regulars, people who know you, you miss a week, they're like, "Oh, we miss you." And like, I don't know, you just kind of take stock of what happened in the year. And I'm like, that's kind of sick. Like, I never thought that was something that I would want to do because I always want to be on the playing end of it. But I would say that was a big win this year, was becoming a trivia host.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know how big you are into trivia. You actually this year got me hooked on Sporkle quizzes. It's what I do in my downtime at work. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, let's see if I know the top passing yards leaders from 2008. Matt Schaub.
Yeah, it keeps your brain fresh. They got a nice website with that sort of stuff, but live trivia is unmatched, right? You go with friends. Worst case scenario, you get some decent bar food and you get a bunch of drinks in your system and you have a fun night. Best case scenario, you win some gift card or something. So that's my kind of atmosphere.
Yeah, and as we'll see later, the Sporkle quizzes and just doing trivia in general can help you remember some things that maybe you forgot from a certain year. That might be an award that we see pop up, your favorite thing that maybe you forgot from this year. So we'll see when we get there. When we get there, we'll explain all of them. Tyler, your win from 2023 or 2022.
My big win this year was that I got to play professional football for the first time. It's been like a long time goal, long time dream of mine. Was able to do it for one game at least, and hopefully I can continue it in this new year with the XFL.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, so it's very, I don't know, it's very like, I don't know, it's like the culmination of everything. It just kind of led up to it, and you're still going for it. So it's kind of like you did it, but like, hey, you only did it once. So now it's like, okay, you got to keep going.
You're sounding so nonchalant, but it's like that's one of the what do you want to be when you grow up? Like you ask a kid, like, I'm gonna be a pro football player. It's like you're living that, dude. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of just surreal because it's like all I've ever done, and when people talk to me about it, like kind of puts it more into perspective for me, because for me it's just another day. Like go out and do it, and
Make
to you
donuts.
guys. Yeah. So
no, but again, like it's something that you've worked on since you were a kid, since you were like little Tyler playing pee-wee football in whatever program in Plainfield area, whatever. You grow up, you play at a prominent Catholic school in the Chicagoland area. You go on and you start so many games in college, and now you're doing the thing like Jack said. When you write down like the little questionnaire in 4th grade, like what do you want to be when you grow up? For you, it was football player, and you are a football player, and I think that's so dope. And so that is a gigantic win. I hope you learn to be as not nonchalant about it, because it's something that like it's super cool for your friends to see, and I think it should be super cool for you too. I understand like the approach of being like, well, this is my everyday and I need to act like it's my everyday, but also like take time like right now when you're counting your wins to be like, yeah, it's pretty friggin' cool what I get to do on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I will give you my win of the year, and it might be a little long-winded, but just follow me here. I made a post on Instagram, maybe you guys saw it, that 2022 was a year for me that it'd be really, really easy to say something snarky or something like, fuck you, 2022, screw you, you're the worst year ever. It would be really easy for me to do that because it was probably one of the worst calendar years of my life. Like everything that was contained within it. I moved to a different state for a job I thought I'd love. I hated it. I was unemployed for 6 months and mopped basements for money. And there was just a lot of mental strife that I went through. And it's really easy for me to say, like, I hate it this year and there is no win. But in actuality, there is, right? Like, I'm a big believer that one of the most important things that you can acquire in life is perspective. I think that perspective is probably the most important thing that you can ever have, because it teaches you how to approach moments. It teaches you how to approach adversity, etc. And I think I gained a lot of perspective this year. And in the process, I did some pretty cool things, even though I felt like I was losing my standing in the world, whatever, right? Because I was unemployed and I had no worth, I had no purpose at that time. But this year I raised over $700,000 to send kids with cancer to camp with other kids like them so that they can enjoy what it's like to just be a kid and have that common denominator of cancer kind of knocked out, and they can just be kids at a camp. I did that. I raised money for kids with cancer twice this year. People wanted me to come talk for them. I thought that was pretty cool. I got a new job in Rockford. We've talked about it a bunch on the show, and I love it. And I'm living with my girlfriend of 10 years, something we really have never done together as adults. And so, like, there's just a lot to be thankful for this year. And I think my win of the year is perspective, because I gained a lot of it this year, and I feel like I'm better having went through the shit that I went through in 2022 now. Like, I feel like I'm a better person. That's my win.
Good answer. Good answer.
I mean,
you knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I feel bad about my win now. Like, geez.
Absolutely not. And you guys shouldn't feel that way. It's just like, this is kind of a dumping ground for all of us, right? Like, if we're going through some shit and whatever, like, we've all brought it to the table here. We've all, like, Tyler, you've talked about your sleep schedule, coming back to America, being in Canada, right? Like, we've all brought shit to the table here. And so it's also important, I think, to bring the shit back around when we've realized, like, man, that was so worth it. And I think that's what you did today, Tyler, was like, yeah, it was like there were some crazy things about being in Canada and coming back, but also you're getting to do the thing that you always wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
So that's my win of the year, to be as succinct as possible. That's what I got. Now, we promised that we have awards for you. We've got end of year segments for you, and we do. So welcome to the Hangin' Banners Year in Review podcast. We will start it off with what a lot of people probably wouldn't start it off with. You would probably save this for the end, but we have such hilarity coming down the pipe for you that this is just where we're going to start as an icebreaker. We're going to start with the Hangin' Banner Sports Person of the Year. It's up front. It's as self-explanatory as possible. And it's also kind of vague so that you can fit in whoever you think you need to fit in to win this award. And so with that, Tyler Witt, lead us off with your nominee or nominees for the Sports Person of the Year.
So I kind of took this one a little serious because a lot of the other ones get like goofy. But I really wanted to say Pat McAfee. I think Pat McAfee did a phenomenal job all season with College Game Day and just broadcasting in general, bringing like new life to it. And before, I mean, you typical like Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso and all of them, and it's, it gets stale after a while. You watch it and it's just kind of old. But then you get Pat McAfee out there and he's just ready to go, fired up all the time, and he's a hilarious guy. And just thinking about like where he started, like, he played in the league, whatever. He was a punter. Then he comes out and he starts a podcast. And then to get to the point where he's announcing games on television and being on College Game Day, I just think that story is so good, and it's very overlooked today just because people don't really take the time to think about like everything that he's done this year. So my nominee is for Pat McAfee.
Well, and to build off of that too, like the arc isn't always there for the podcaster to turn to network anchor or network host or whatever it might be, analyst, because I mean the world of podcasters is growing day by day. We started this year, and like we can consider ourselves podcasters on our tax forms come April, right? Like, we're not making money off of it, but we can you can write it down.
IRS, guess what I do? I'm a podcaster.
But no, to see his path, obviously retired from football early, and then does the podcast with Barstool. I think, this is just me, if he stayed with Barstool, he wouldn't be on ESPN now, because he kind of turned that into, I think it's not even a podcast anymore. I'm pretty sure it's like a syndicated Sirius XM show that he does on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And now
he's Pardon My Interruption, right? Or what is it called?
The Pat McAfee Show.
Pat McAfee Show.
Pardon My Interruption is Mike Wilbon and
no, that's Pardon the Interruption. I could have sworn that he had something called that. Maybe I always just got the letters mixed up. But he did go independent, right?
Yeah, and he got sponsored by a big sports book, and so that kind of changed.
FanDuel,
Yeah, kind of changed the trajectory for him a little bit. But
Well,
I just every broadcast that I see him on, I'm just like so in tune with it because it's just like you hear the excitement in his voice.
yeah, and well, I think that the I don't even know how to say it, but like that guy of those college football broadcasts has always been Lee Corso, and it's literally for one moment at the end of the broadcast where he puts on a head. Right now, they have a guy there who can bring life and kind of, I think, pull out what's so unique about college football in that it's the most like European soccer that we have in America. Like the way that the fandoms are and the traditions and the chants and just the fandoms, right? Like it's the closest thing we have to European soccer. And you have a guy that can now kind of begin to pull that out. They did a broadcast in Knoxville, Tennessee this year, and he was jumping in the river, right? Like on the broadcast. So like, don't do it. He's like, no, I'm doing it. And he jumps in. Like that's the type of stuff moving forward that's going to make that show even better. And I think that's a hell of a nominee for the Sports Person of the Year. Now, Jack, it's your turn to nominate your people or persons.
Also took it pretty serious. Also somebody who I feel like, this fall was a big time of year for them. I went with Lionel Messi, who over the course of the year won a Ligue 1 title with PSG. They also won the France Nation Cup, the Trophy de Champions. Of course, he won the World Cup with Argentina, was given the Golden Ball, the MVP of the World Cup, got the Silver Boot, was one goal away from being the top goal scorer of the tournament. So for somebody who's kind of on their way out and has been good for a long time, this also was kind of a banner year for Messi. So Lionel Messi.
And also kind of the dude too that of the goats that have been in soccer for the past couple of years feels like the good dude choice, right? Like if you want your goat to also be a good guy, also it feels like it's Messi. And to see him get that win on what will likely be his final World Cup was pretty cool. So again, another great nominee for Sports Person of the Year. I didn't take it as seriously, though I do think that this is a serious nomination. He is this person that I've nominated has been ingrained in sports culture for the majority of the year. He has been in locker rooms. He has been, I think, even on broadcasts. He is ever present in society. My nomination for Hangin' Banners Sports Person of the Year is James DeRose.
Houston Texans! What happened? How did you lose to Dallas Cowboys?
Our good friend James is my nominee for Sports Person of the Year because honestly, he transcends sports. He transcends generations. He's brought people together this year with one single phrase. What happened? And so James DeRose is my nominee for Sports Person of the Year.
Just a giant shadow looming over you if you're a top 10 team.
But think about it, the meme of the Reaper coming through doors.
Yeah.
He is it's an endless stream of doors, and James DeRose is the Reaper coming for all of us.
That's gonna be a high price on Cameo to get a Cameo video of just anything, your fantasy football team, your local bowling team or whatever. Just send that to the people you beat. Oh man, so much money.
The nominees for Sports Person of the Year are, and this will probably be the only time all three of these people are mentioned in the same breath, is
Never know.
Pat McAfee, Lionel Messi, and James DeRose. Those are the nominees this year. So very cool, very fun. And that's only one award. We still have so many to go in the segments as well. So next I bring to you, what do I want to do here? Let's go with the Bishop Sycamore Team of the Year Award. Jack Coachman, bring us your nominee.
So, okay, the Bishop Sycamore Team of the Year. I like the name of the award, but I definitely treated it more like a Team of the Year in a serious, who actually was super impressive. My Team of the Year was Oklahoma University softball. They destroyed everybody they played. They lost one game in the last 4 rounds of the Women's College World Series. Jocelyn Alo broke the home run record, I think with like 96, I want to say was the number. And then in the championship game, they beat Texas in a 2-0 title sweep with a combined 26-6, outscoring them in runs, including, I think, Northwestern and UCLA along the way. They had to finish the game early because they got run ruled. So this was like the steamroller team of the year. Oklahoma softball gets the award for me.
I like it. And it's not the only time we're going to hear about Oklahoma softball in this show. I can guarantee that.
Hello.
Ooh. For mine, I thought I was going to do it serious, but then I changed my mind. My team of the year is going to be West Toronto Prep High School, a high school program from west side of Toronto, who went down to play IMG in a high school football game and lost 96-0. I think it takes so much skill to not score a single point
And also
give up 96. Like, you have to be like not trying so hard to lose at that point. Oh my goodness.
So that's
Okay.
Let's quick math says 96 points is 13 scoring drives, I think. So that means they gave up, and that's just if it's touchdowns, right? That means they gave up, best case scenario, a touchdown every 5 minutes of play. That's so hard to do. You get the ball every other time.
That punter was busy.
He had himself a day.
Oh, West Toronto Prep. Sorry to hear. But congratulations on the award.
So for me, the team of the year, I've kind of hemmed and hawed over. I had 2 finalists for the award. And I don't want to start the dangerous precedent of multiple nominees.
Yeah, pick one. Live with it.
Coward.
Pick the second one. The bottom one.
All right, I'll pick the bottom one. So my nominee for team of the year goes to the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh, I like that.
Who were dead to rights in the middle of the season. They fired their manager, Joe Girardi. They bring in Rob Thompson, I believe is the guy's name. I know he's on my dead to me list, but Rob Thompson comes in and steers the ship in the right direction and gets the Phillies to the playoffs. Yes, the expanded playoffs, but still the Phillies are in. And then what do they do but shock the world by rattling off wins against the Cardinals? They win against the Padres as well, and they find themselves in the World Series where they did not look like a team completely overmatched by a much better Houston Astros team. Again, it just kind of shows you the nature of baseball, that all you really need to do is get in and get hot, and maybe you can just stumble into a World Series, kind of like the Nationals from a few years ago. So the Phillies, with all their power in their lineup, especially Bryce Harper, like if there was like an extra award to hand out for like MVP of the team, I would give it to Bryce Harper, because I think that he was next level, like almost alien level of play when it came to the MLB playoffs this year. So my nomination for team of the year goes to the Phillies. Would you like to know who got the honorable mention?
Yes.
All right, let's hear it.
The honorable mention, and I won't go into details, would have went to, or does go to, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Nah, Phillies is better pick. Anyways.
Yeah. I'm thinking, Super Bowl appearance. They're going to the playoffs this year. I think they've had a lot of wins in the window of 2022. And so I thought the Bengals, who were also a very pleasant surprise last year, doing what they've done this year, would have been a nice nomination. But the Phillies get it. The Philadelphia Phillies get it. We're 2 awards in. We've got 10 for sure, or 11 for sure. And also some hidden awards coming up too. Jack, you've got some hidden stuff that you want to bring to the table. And so we've got all that coming up. But for right now, we're going next to the Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year Award. Should I count to 3 and we just all name the winner?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we do need to clarify, because we bring up the Nate Hackett Coach of the Week fairly often. Not every week, but with some regularity. Nate Hackett is not how he prefers to be referred. And so that is the clown coach of the week. That is the boy, you screwed up. But Nathaniel Hackett, see, now that's a professional name. A guy who goes by Nathaniel, he's a business person. So at least I took this as a serious Coach of the Year award named after what sounds like a serious coach.
Or at least was the shell of a serious coach.
Yeah, so I'm okay kicking this one off. Women's college sports. Dawn Staley was who I chose for Coach of the Year because I was thinking back on like, oh, what were all the different championships that happened? And I forgot that Gino Auriemma's UConn lost in the finals of the NCAA tournament for the first time in his tenure. They were, I think, 12-0 in championship games, and South Carolina women's basketball beat them in the finals. They also came away with the #1 recruiting class, and they are again a top team in the country. So I think there's something to be said for a coach that went and on the way to winning a title beat 3 other legends of the game in coaching. So Dawn Staley, I don't want to put her in the same sentence as Nathaniel Hackett, but she does get the Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year award.
Go Cox. Tyler.
Well, I really thought this was the joke Coach of the Year, so I named Nate Hackett.
Nathaniel Hackett, yeah.
There we go. That's a good answer, though.
The Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year. I mean, it's pretty well documented on our podcast that Nate Hackett's a clown. So there you go.
I also named Nathaniel Hackett the Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year. I mean, we can sit here and we can talk about some of the major like mistakes that he made. I think early on there was a decision that he made where it was a 23-yard field goal to take the lead, and instead he chose to go for it on 4th down, and then later in the game had an opportunity to go for it on 3rd down and like pick up extra yards, but elected for a 64-yard field goal as time was expiring. I think the Broncos lost that game.
I'm just remembering the decided to lined up to punt, called a timeout to go for it, then got a penalty and ended up punting. I need a greatest hits compilation of weeks 1 through 7 Nathaniel Hackett coaching decisions.
It was so bad they hired an extra coach. They staffed another human being to make sure that all the tough decisions Nathaniel Hackett had to make as a head coach were made for him. All of the timeouts and the time decisions and things like that. They hired that guy for him, and then that guy took his job.
Which brings me to one of the hidden awards, which is the Darth Plagueis the Wise Award for Best Betrayal. Star Wars fans will know that Darth Plagueis was betrayed in the Rule of Two. There always are 2 Sith Lords, but the apprentice always overtakes the master. And so Jerry Rosberg, interim head coach of the Denver Broncos, wins the Darth Plagueis the Wise Award because he was hired to make tough decisions, and his most famous tough decision to date is making sure the guy who hired him is gone. So there's one of a couple of hidden awards there. Oh, what a great story, this Denver Broncos
I don't
team.
think you realize how happy you just made Tyler. He is a gigantic Star Wars guy.
Huge Star Wars guy.
You ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
It doesn't sound very wise.
If you ask your Alexa that question, it'll read it to you. It's amazing.
Oh, that's so sick. That's so cool. Oh,
Okay.
And in the end, he was there all along. All right. My bad. That's interlude 1. I won't have too many more.
I like it. I think that it would have been fun to just name it the E2 Brutus Award, for backstabbing. Very fun. Okay. So again, the nominees for Coach of the Year are Dawn Staley, the head coach of South Carolina women's basketball, and Nathaniel Hackett. That's the short list for nominees for this year's Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year award. And so
I didn't want Dawn Staley in the same sentence, and then the entire nominee list is just her and Hackett.
The same sentence. Somebody out there may be screaming into the microphone or into the car, whatever. They're not screaming into the microphone. I am, but they might be screaming out there. What about Jeff Saturday? We'll talk about him a little bit later in the show. Tyler's got some answering to do, but on to the next award. 3 down, couple more to go. We have the Jamal Murray Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year Award. Now, if anybody is unfamiliar with why we are calling this the Jamal Murray Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year, in 2020, Jamal Murray posted a video to his Instagram stories of his girlfriend sucking them off.
I can see you thinking of a way to say that, and then it's like, nope, that's the easiest way.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. And he claimed that he was hacked. I think we all just know it was a slip of the thumb or slip of the tongue. Either way. No, anybody like that one? All right. We are naming this the Jamal Murray Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year. I will start with a compilation of tweets that occurred on the Chicago Bears Twitter account earlier this year when they handed over the account to, I think, 75-year-old Dick Butkus.
Oh, it's electric.
Who at some point was, posting videos and stuff and like, hey, Bears fans, it's Dick Butkus. I don't think that anybody helped him. I think he's like, I got it. And he's, posting with like both hands on the phone, like, hello, Bears fans, I am Dick Butkus. Like, oh, shit. And at some point, he posted a 2-minute video of the phone rattling around in his pocket, which he responded to by saying, please help. I don't know how to delete. Delete tweet. Please help.
I remember this.
So that is my athlete social media moment of the year. I did have a pretty good runner-up, but I like this one a little bit better.
All right, Tyler, you go next.
So I would like to say that Antonio Brown had an incredible social media year.
Here's my runner-up.
He was my runner-up also.
He's my runner-up as well. I have one that I like more, but I had to say it that, I mean, everything that he's done this year is like GOAT level of social media athlete. But for mine, I have Marcus Jordan. So a former athlete, the ultimate cuck, if you will, taking away Scottie Pippen's wife from him. Michael Jordan's son, Marcus Jordan, taking away Scottie Pippen's wife.
Oh.
It's like the Shaq memes.
And
like,
then posting the picture.
Yeah, posting pictures and fans going up to him and recording them on dates and stuff. But it's like the Shaq meme. I was like, I'm sorry, I wasn't familiar with your game.
Oh, I forgot about that. This is like, that's why we have to do a year in review, because both of those things, as you guys explain them, I'm like, oh, I totally remember that happening, but I would not have been able to conjure that like an hour ago. That's a good one. Did either of you have an Antonio Brown like moment that stood out? Because I had specifically one Antonio Brown post.
There were multiple ones. I think the most out-of-pocket shit that he did on social media this year was post the storybook of Daddy Doesn't Live Here Anymore. And it was him and Giselle. And Tom Brady was outside.
I have all the innuendos about Giselle as well.
There was that. There was where he was in Dubai.
That's what I had, was him in the hotel pool. I don't really want to like co-sign or endorse. That's why I couldn't pick it. But where he was just like shoving his butt in people's faces and like posting it online. Like, dude, what is happening to you right now?
Was the farting in front of the doctor? Was that this year or was that years past?
No, that was years
past. Was like just farting in front of the doctor and laughing, and somebody was videotaping it. What type of stooges do you keep on your roster that are just there while you're having a medical exam and filming you farting in a doctor's face? What kind of people?
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
okay.
In a not so different vein, my Jamal Murray Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year goes to DK Metcalf, who tweeted after a game when he got carted off under suspicious pretense. It was later revealed that he actually needed to go to the bathroom, and he quote tweeted the article and said that clinch walk wouldn't have made it in defense of needing the cart to get off the field.
Go take a poop.
Yeah, he just had to do a little number 2, but needed help, so they wheeled him away. And he's big enough to admit that that's what happened. Unlike the Paul Pierce controversy of all, DK Metcalf said, "Yeah, I couldn't have walked; it wouldn't have worked."
It was like, bring the cart.
Lying on the field, like, get the trainers.
I totally forgot about that. That was probably one of the most absurd storylines from the entire NFL season. That somebody, it looked like a serious. I think they called it like a leg injury too. He just had to go take a shit. Okay. All right. So the nominees for the Jamal Murray Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year: Dick Butkus, Marcus Jordan, DK Metcalf, and I'm going to throw him on the list anyway because I think that he just needs to be here. It's Antonio Brown making the list as well, a fourth nominee for the Athlete Social Media Moment of the Year.
Do you remember? I'm just going to quickly, I'm realizing we have 2 wide receivers on here. You guys know that like always makes the round tweet about how different position groups tweet, or like quarterbacks will be like, oh, I love the team, like thanks to God and everything. And then a wide receiver is always the unhinged, like my enemy will stab me in the back with a knife when I least expect it. Like, why are wide receivers just a different animal, man?
I don't know. Antonio Brown is one of those guys I just wish would get a little extra help in the mental department. But all right, next one, we come down a little bit. This one is important. The game or performance of the year in 2022. And I've got a pretty good one. I'm pretty pumped up about this, and I don't want it to get stolen. So I'm going first because, God damn it, I said so. The game performance of the year came in the same game. So the game of the year was the World Cup final, which, listen, I am not a soccer guy by any stretch of the imagination.
Big soccer guy, Ryan Sartori.
I was glued to the TV watching that game, or at least to the phone, and it was incredible to watch. I mean, you talk about back and forth, and then it goes into overtime, and then it gets tied up in overtime, and then you have shootouts. It was just a crazy, crazy game. The performance of the year, I think, goes to Kylian Mbappe, who had a hat trick in the World Cup final, which is next to unheard of, and I think announced himself as the next GOAT of soccer moving forward, with Messi, Ronaldo, and Neymar all getting ready to probably call it quits here in the next 2 to 3 years. So again, game of the year, World Cup final. Performance of the year was Kylian Mbappe's hat trick in the World Cup final.
Yeah, got him the golden boot. That was the guy who beat Messi out by 1 goal if he didn't get 3 in that last game. That's a good pick. Good pick.
Anybody go next?
Jack, would you like to go?
Sure. Mine
Such
is,
a courteous podcast.
Huh?
It's such a courteous podcast.
Yeah, we're all a team.
Manners matter.
Hanging manners. Oh, how about that?
Hanging manners.
Yeah, there we go.
Also, Tyler, that sounded like a footballism. That sounded like something that's been hung in a locker room somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure it's, I mean,
manners matter. Like that sounds like something that you've slapped before you walk out to the practice field.
It's got to be up in one of the 130 Division I programs, right?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, Jack, game performance of the year.
Yep, super generic. I think a lot of people might point to this. It was the Bills-Chiefs playoff game back in, I think it was January. I think it just makes the cut late January, where we had, 4 lead changes in the last 90 seconds or 2 minutes of play. We had 13 seconds was the swing from Bills losing to tying it up. We get the overtime game. And I think that's one that people are going to continue to look back for years as the Allen Mahomes stories continue to unfold. Just a high scoring, everybody's watching. You figure that the winner of this game probably has the inside track to the Super Bowl, which that did not end up being the case. But the Bills beating the Chiefs in the AFC playoffs, game of the year for me.
Great pick.
So mine's a little bit more recent. I went with the TCU versus Michigan game. And I think if you look at a complete game, the complete game that TCU put together when playing Michigan, it was a thing of beauty. Michigan was riding high all season. And I, being a Big Ten, having played in the Big Ten, there's a lot of, it has some weight to it being in the Big Ten, right? But if you go back and look at Michigan's schedule, like early on in the year, they played a lot of cupcake games, and everyone was so high on Michigan throughout the whole season. And they proved it. They proved that they can beat some tough teams. but I think they got cocky, and you could see the turmoil that whole team was in, especially at the very beginning of the game when TCU went up really big, really early. And I mean, TCU's defense played lights out. Their offense was right there with them, bringing them along. So I just think it was like a total complete game. It was nice to see Michigan lose after they beat Purdue. So that it had some extra weight to it as well.
Speaking of Purdue, and don't let me get too far away
No,
from this.
no,
No.
no,
The people got to know. I mean, obviously, everybody can check scores and stuff, but for anybody invested in the storyline of the LSU Purdue bowl game that they were playing today, and the ramifications that has here on Hangin' Banners podcast, Tyler, you got to pay up.
I do.
The punishment episode will be coming soon as LSU dominated Purdue. I mean, we all kind of expected it because half of the team was not playing, having declared for the NFL draft, but it was still an utter domination by LSU. And for that, Tyler, you'll be hosting a podcast very, very soon, and we're excited for that. Were there any runners up for game performance of the year?
I didn't have any. I didn't have any listed. I'm sure I could think of some, but I didn't have any.
Tyler, any comment on the revenge game or revenge episode?
I'm really excited for it to be random because I think it's, like I said, I'm going to throw like a complete wrench in everything that we do. We might not even talk about sports. Like it's going to be a complete on its head nonsense episode. But as far as runners up, I did want to mention, like I think it was week 3 of college football. We had 3 major upsets.
Oh, the Sun Belt.
The Sun Belt. Marshall over Notre Dame. We had
App State over Texas A&M.
Yes, and Georgia Southern over Nebraska.
Yep.
I think those 3, like just in one week, it was just super, super cool to see like 3 big upsets in 1 week. Obviously, it can't be one, so that's why I didn't make it my number 1.
How did we forget about Scott Frost for Coach of the Year? If you guys were taking the joke,
Oh,
you just reminded me
shit.
with the Nebraska. I'm like, wait, he was that was that his last game?
I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Or the heater that thawed the frost.
Oh, that's thinking on your feet.
Yeah,
the heater
I
that
tried.
de-thawed the frost.
This is the Yes and show, and that was a little improv for you. Okay, so the nominees for the game or performance of the year: World Cup final, Bills Chiefs. The OT rules game, I think, is, I don't know, maybe the nickname that you can dub it, right? And the Fiesta Bowl, TCU and Michigan are the nominees for game of the year. Now we move on to the Kim Kardashian comeback story of the year.
I'm really nervous to see where you took this, Ryan.
Why? Well, I guess we've talked about some stars on this show, right? No. So, I mean, I think everybody's probably seen the viral clip from behind the scenes of the making of Parks and Recreation. The line from Amy Poehler is essentially like, "Oh, what are some great comeback stories? People love comeback stories." Secretariat, The Mighty Ducks. Chris Pratt's character butts in and says, "Kim Kardashian." And everybody says, "No, that's not right." And he goes, No. In the video, she has cum on her back. That is that's why we named it the Kim Kardashian comeback story of the year. So,
just no words. No words.
Start us off, Ryan.
I go.
I'll start us off. All
right.
All right, let's go, Tyler. Let's go.
This one kind of flew under the radar for people, I think, but because I was in the CFL, I was more in tune with it. Chad Swag Kelly. He was the backup quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts.
The dude with the dented head?
Was he Ole Miss?
So yeah, Chad Kelly, former Ole Miss quarterback, bounced around the NFL for a couple of years, ended up in the CFL for the Toronto Argonauts. During the Grey Cup, the starter went down, got injured. At a key moment in the game, they were Toronto Argonauts were down to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers pretty by a score, and Chad Kelly came in, drove down the field, and scored for the go ahead points in the Grey Cup, prevented me from winning the Grey Cup. But I still think it's an awesome story. Just, being in the NFL for a while, and then everyone kind of forgot about him. He was like a huge prospect coming out of college, and to see him still doing his thing is pretty cool.
That's a good pick.
That's a comeback within a comeback.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A professional comeback and a game comeback. There you go.
Yeah. Good for Chad Kelly. And I think, again, I ask, is that the dude with the dented head? Didn't he have like a dent in his forehead at some point?
I'll look it up.
I have no idea what you're talking about with that.
Go ahead, Tyler. You look it up, Jamie. Jack, your comeback of the year.
All right. Mine is going back to March Madness again, this time on the men's side. Kansas basketball in the championship game, down 16 points to beat North Carolina, which in its own right was a cool comeback, right? Like, down big. You don't see that sort of thing too often in any basketball game, but specifically in the last game of the college basketball season. But what was more fun and enhances the experience for me is that I was watching that on like a adults only deck of a cruise ship, and I had no access to like internet or anything. So I just follow on this outdoor screen, and I had some outstanding bets before I left that involved Kansas specifically beating North Carolina in the championship. So that was electric to follow along without being able to see Twitter or text friends or anything. I just lived through it. But it was also just a sick comeback by a really good team.
That's awesome.
Love
it.
Game.
Okay, so the Kansas comeback in the March Madness final was actually my runner-up, so I'm happy that it made the list because my comeback of the year is probably the biggest comeback of the year. It happened recently on the 23rd of December this year. We had the Vikings coming back. What was it down? They were down
33-0.
33-0. Right. They're 33-0, come all the way back and win it in overtime. Kirk Cousins, I think, threw for over 450 yards in that game. Justin Jefferson went nuclear. It was a crazy game to like follow. And it was so crazy that I wanted to catch the end of it that I actually ended up paying for NFL Plus for the rest of the year just so that I could watch the remainder of the comeback. Also, and I would assume that we're going to hear this name in just a little bit as we move through the rest of these awards. Matt Ryan with just another monumental meltdown on the wrong side of a comeback story. So the comeback of the year for me goes to the Minnesota Vikings. They clawed back and beat the Indianapolis Colts down 33-0. It was the biggest comeback in NFL history. And that's it. So we got Chad Kelly, and also Toronto. That might win it right there because it's a comeback inside of a comeback. We've got the March Madness final. I'm keeping all of these because I just want to like have them, cherish them. And then obviously the Vikings comeback. So that's cool. We also have to think off the field. We got to think about some quotes, some takes, and things like that. And so that leads us to our next award, which is the Give Me Iguodala Award for Worst Take. The namesake for this, obviously, the famous Max Kellerman quote, where he was on First Take with Stephen A. and was saying something to the effect of, if the aliens were invading, they have their laser beams pointed on Earth, and the fate of the Earth it rests with one man and his shot in basketball. Give me Iguodala, which is obviously a terrible fucking take.
Quote, it's like you read it and it looks fake too. You pretty much nailed it. But I'm looking direct quote from Max Kellerman's mouth of everyone on Golden State. Open shot, fate of the universe. The Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth. You better hit it. I want Iguodala. Like how do you say that on live TV? Martians have the death beam at the Earth, huh? All right. Well, I want Iguodala. Give me Iguodala.
Give me Iguodala.
Give me Iguodala. Okay. So we mentioned earlier when we were handing out nominations for the Coach of the Year award that Tyler's got a little rectifying to do. And so Tyler Witt, you lead us off.
I self-nominate myself for worst take for my take on Jeff Saturday being a great head coach for the Indianapolis Colts.
Not only did you say he would be a good coach, you vehemently fought us on him being a good coach. You're like, you guys are wrong. I'm right. He's gonna be great. Give him a chance.
That might not have been exactly how it went down, but I do remember. Yeah, you were standing pretty proud on that one.
I thought I was going to be like one of the going against the flow of the river. I thought I was going to be like, yeah, this guy's going to come in. He's going to shake things up. He's going to turn the whole NFL on its head. Everything's going to be so different now. They're just going to be hiring former players left and right. I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. I think best to stay away from that, actually. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I still stand by the fact I think he'd be a good O-line coach, but I can't in good conscience acknowledge my take is valid anymore. So I nominate myself.
Just on a somewhat related thing, and I don't mean to bring this up specifically because of if it could be personal for you, Tyler, but on the players being hired as coaches, you guys heard about the Drew Brees and New Jersey sportsbook stuff. Oh my gosh, that since Drew Brees got named like an assistant, not an assistant head coach, just an assistant coach, I think, on the Purdue staff.
Interim
was that his title?
Assistant. Interim assistant coach.
Assistant. Yeah. So they bring Drew Brees in, but because Drew Brees is like in a relationship with the sportsbook points bet, they had to take down the betting lines for the Purdue game in New Jersey because people flagged and are like, whoa, wait a second. They've got somebody on the sidelines that like is in a mutual relationship with a sportsbook. So that's another person on the list of maybe don't just hire former players in interim roles. That's two teams that got taken down by that. But
I don't think it really mattered. I think, I mean, it was just a good old fashioned ass whooping out there today. So
yeah. I've got two, and one of them is just to not leave Tyler on an island by himself as having a bad take.
I picked myself for mine. So you
okay.
All
right. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
So worst take by an athlete this year was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who in spring training said something to the effect of last year was just the trailer. This year is going to be a movie. And the Blue Jays limped through the season and limped into the playoffs and then got eliminated by the youngest team in baseball. I think one of the youngest teams in baseball who had just ended a 20-year drought for their organization. I think in 3 games. Like I think they got swept out pretty quick. And also Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to date had one of his worst seasons at the plate. It was just an all-around pretty treacherous year for the Blue Jays. So if that is like your melodrama that you were preaching, if that's the movie, man, good for you. That was a pretty awful take, I thought. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can join the list, but I will throw my hand up. Early this year, I wrote down a list of who I thought would win the awards for the MLB season that happened this year. I wrote down the list, and I have it here. So the National League MVP pick that I had was the St. Louis Cardinals, Tyler O'Neill. There were not one, but 2 MVP candidates on the St. Louis Cardinals this year. Neither of them were named Tyler O'Neill.
That was a bold pick. I appreciate the boldness.
He had a great year last year in 2021, and I was certain that the trajectory would continue. Big, strong outfielder, and good bat, good pop. I thought the trajectory was going to be there. Tyler O'Neill didn't even make the wild card roster for the St. Louis Cardinals. That's how bad his season went. He dealt with injuries and things like that. So hand up here too. Tyler O'Neill was nowhere near MVP caliber this year. And so I nominate myself for the Give Me Iguodala award for worst take.
All right. Well, I can't let you guys be the only ones with bad takes. Mine was also somebody that I didn't trumpet them around as who I thought the preeminent favorite would be. But among my preferred bets, there was a team in the NFL this year that was a very trendy team preseason. And I specifically was like, you know what? I don't know if they'll be the best team even in their division, but I have a feeling this guy's going to be pretty good. And I have a few different bets that technically haven't lost yet because the NFL MVP hasn't been named. But Russell Wilson did not end up, he is not going to be MVP this year. And I definitely bit hard on the, oh my gosh, the Broncos are making moves. They could be good. And that fizzled out so quick. I put strike throughs on my futures bets that I track. Once they are officially lost, I crossed that out weeks ago, even though it technically is still active, because he is not getting the MVP.
Still has never received an MVP vote. Believe it or
No,
not.
and won't get any this year.
All right, so the worst takes of the year. Tyler's Jeff Saturday takes. My take on Tyler O'Neill being MVP, and Jack's bets and takes on Russell Wilson being the MVP this year. Russell Wilson still does not have more passing touchdowns this season than he has toilets in his mansion in Denver. So still tracking that. There's still one more week for him to have 12 passing touchdowns, but I think he needs like 3 of them. And that seems like a major uphill climb, like walking up the Rocky Mountains uphill climb for that team. So any honorable mentions? None.
You know what? I'll throw one in that could have gone for the athlete tweet, but I was reminded when you had the Vladdy one, and I had mentioned this to you not that long ago, Sartori. The J.K. Dobbins before the season, when he was coming back from an injury last year, I'm trying to see if I can find the exact quote. People were essentially questioning, would he be ready for the start of the season? Because there was an Ian Rappaport tweet that was like, he's no sure thing to be ready week 1. And all training camp signs had pointed that he would be. And he tweeted something to the effect of like, nobody knows my body except for me and God. Like, mark my words, I'll be there for the start of the season. And then he was not healthy to start the season and did actually miss a couple weeks. But I
think he missed the first month of the season.
Just going, because he had been out all of essentially all of last year. Yeah, all of last year, all of the off season. He's working back, and just that nobody knows me like me, and he missed.
God got me is essentially what he said. That's a good honorable mention. I like that a lot. Okay. We move forward now to the Dead at 37 award for athlete who should most retire. If you followed the show and the 1 point rundown that we do to cover every NFL week, there was one week where I rattled off 3 NFL quarterbacks who were dead at their respective ages. Matt Ryan is 37, and so he is technically the namesake for this award. And I'm hoping that he appears somewhere as a nominee for Dead at 37. So, Tyler, do the honors.
I'll start because I actually did have Matt Ryan written down.
Hell yeah.
And I think this is more so like about Indianapolis, because I feel like Indianapolis is becoming, it's like the boat in Greek mythology that just slowly carries all the dead people to the underworld with Hades. You get sent there as a quarterback, you're done. It's over. You're just getting sent out
carrying
to
them down the river Styx.
Yes.
That was Sharon's the guy's name who like transports people. It's like, your time is up. Let me take you to the next world.
Does the boat have a name?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I only know the guy who ferries it. I'll see. I'll look it up.
Jamie, look that up.
That's how it makes me feel, because if you think about last year with the quarterback for the oh my God, I almost said it again. For the Commanders, help me out with his name. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Carson Wentz?
Yes, Carson Wentz.
All right.
Carson Wentz last year.
The
I think
CTE moment was brought to you by football.
He is Carson Wentz is forgettable, to be fair.
I mean, he's pretty much dead at 37 as well. But I just think there's Phillip Rivers. And then you had, oh God, CTE. Stop. The quarterback from Stanford,
Andrew Luck
retired.
Bang.
So it's just an endless supply of people being sent to the underworld from Indianapolis. So my vote is dead at 37, Matt Ryan.
Literally. A name for the boat, Jack, or no?
There's no name. It's just the boat. It's just known as Sharon's boat.
Sharon's boat. Okay. All right. The next quarterback riding on Sharon's boat down the river Styx, the Dead at 37 award for athlete who should most retire, goes to Stetson Bennett.
Oh,
I like this one.
Oh, he's so young.
I like this.
For college, he's not young at all. Stetson Bennett is 25 years old, and I don't think football will ever be better for him than it is right now. College football has been great to Stetson Bennett over the past 2 years. He's got a Heisman to show for it. When he goes to the NFL, things will not go well for him. I just don't see it translating. He has such a cast of characters around him for the past 2 years. The defense has been phenomenal, giving him short fields. He's had, countless great players around him, the offensive line, some receivers, etc. Stetson Bennett, once the season comes to an end, because he will be competing in the national championship here in a few days, he should retire from football. It should be it. He wins the Dead at 37 award for athlete who should most retire for me.
All right, a quick trivia question. Do you guys know Stetson Bennett's nickname?
Stets, right?
The mailman?
The mailman, which is one of the dumbest stories on how somebody gets their nickname. He showed up to a football camp wearing a USPS hat, and since then has been referred to as the mailman. So I think that, to me, that tips the whole scale of like, yeah, it's time to be done. If that's what they're calling you, there's no pride in that. Oh, that's 25 though. I'm 25.
I'm 26. Jack, Dead at 37. Who is it?
Somebody who was actually declared dead on this podcast at the age of, I guess, 39. Aaron Rodgers is the athlete who I think should most retire for a number of reasons. One is I don't think anybody really wants him that much. I think the Broncos wanted him and he didn't go, and the Raiders might be looking. But like, if you're in the Packers organization, if you're a Packers fan, you're so sick of what Aaron Rodgers has done to this team in the last couple of years. He's kept them as like a good team, but also completely inhibited their ability to move forwards as a franchise. Jordan Love is sitting on the bench behind him. We haven't seen much of him, but they burned a first-round pick on that. Rodgers has been kind of choosy about his receivers and has been a bit of a media circus, which is the bigger point number 2, which is that I don't want to hear from him anymore. So I hope that he seems like a guy who really likes his privacy and likes his personal life. And I think if he were away from football, he could enjoy that to himself, and we wouldn't have to hear the nonsense things he's talking about. Plus, he's not as good as he used to be. So a whole swirling eddy of things. Aaron Rodgers, please retire.
Matt Ryan, Stetson Bennett, and Aaron Rodgers, the trio of quarterbacks who win the Dead at 37 award for athlete who should most retire. On to the next. We got a couple more here, as we have the I Was Promised award for biggest disappointment. This doesn't have a specific namesake. We're just pissed that we were promised something differently and we didn't get it. I think the biggest disappointment of this calendar year is the AFC West. We were promised this crazy, who the hell is going to win it? How will anybody win these games? Russell Wilson goes to Denver, and Mahomes in Kansas City, and Herbert and his takeoff, and also Derek Carr gets Devontae Adams, and then the pass rush for all these teams. It was all we could talk about pre-NFL season, and it has since been proven miserably, miserably wrong. We thought the Chiefs would finish in last place in this division. Turns out they are now in the hunt for hosting the entire playoffs, because they are still in the contention for the number 1 seed. Jesus, hey, I've not been hitting the head as much as Tyler, but every once in a while the old brain takes a shit. So the biggest disappointment this year in general was the AFC West. I mean, Russell Wilson is in there. You can kind of couple him in with all of that as well. That was, for me, the thing that I thought I was promised and didn't get.
I guess I'll double. I feel really bad right now because my last 2 were about the Indianapolis Colts, and this third one's going to be about the Indianapolis Colts.
Jesus Christ.
I'm never going to get hired by them. Jonathan Taylor this year. I remember when we first sat down and we first started the podcast, we couldn't stop talking about how good Jonathan Taylor was going to be this year. We were talking about like him overthrowing Derrick Henry in this great season with the most yards from scrimmage, most running touchdowns, all this. And you don't even hear about him anymore. I know he's been injured in and out of the lineup, but even when he was playing, he was nothing special. And so I'm very disappointed in that because, again, I had somewhat of decent hopes for the Indianapolis Colts this year, even before Jeff Saturday became the coach and Matt Ryan died. I thought they would be better, and they're just not. And Jonathan Taylor was just another piece of that.
You know, that's a great nominee.
If I had said before the start of the season, injury aside, that Jonathan Taylor would be the 4th best running back in the AFC South, that would have been laughable. But I think Derrick Henry, Travis Etienne, and Damian Pierce, all in the weeks where they 4 were starting, consistently outperformed. So that's kind of nuts to think about too. I'm keeping it in NFL. I actually almost had them as team of the year because I was starting in like January, February and thinking, oh my gosh, like, yeah, they were awesome. This was so cool. And now that we're in the next January, I'm like, oh my God, what happened to the Los Angeles Rams?
Oh my God, right?
They were
Terrible.
Super Bowl champions, a team of veteran mercenaries, playmakers at every position, both sides of the ball. Super awesome, fun team. McVay is breaking out like he is the model of coaching of the future. And they're, as of this podcast, 5-11 with 1 game to play.
And
Stafford,
no first round pick.
No first round pick for 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
Stafford was bad and then got hurt. Aaron Donald threatened retirement in the offseason, and he probably will do that again if he needs to. They did not end up bringing Odell Beckham back, who was a spark and got hurt in the Super Bowl last year. And Cam Akers wanted to get traded. You have guys who are wanting to retire, wanting you to send them away. This is the reigning Super Bowl champion. And as of this past week, they are the first Super Bowl champion in NFL history to have 11 or more losses the following season. So I was promised a super fun team of names I know, and I instead got this team.
Yeah. It's great. And I think we had them as like, this is a lock to make the playoffs. I think in like in our introductory podcast, like I think we had them, we had the Packers as 4 sure locks, we had the Buccaneers as 4 sure locks, and it just goes to show like this season nobody had any idea what was going to happen. Maybe that's something we should take into consideration next year when we start talking about football again, is that just when you think you know something about football, you know nothing.
No, we're going to get it all right next year. I'm confident.
We have a couple of more awards here. The next one is your favorite. I'm never going to forget this moment that you definitely forgot about from this past year. And I want to lead off. It's a big night for Antonio Brown as he is taking home multiple awards.
Oh no.
I completely forgot until this happened a year ago post showed up in my Twitter feed. Antonio Brown had a meltdown on the sidelines and then left in the middle of the game. That was January 2nd or January 1st of 2021 or 2022 rather.
Oh my gosh.
That was this year. It was him on the Bucs against the Jets, and he just started leaving. He gave deuces to everybody in New Jersey and was like, I'm out of here. See you guys. And he's never stepped on a football field since then, but he has put his butt in people's faces. He has stolen apparently Tom Brady's wife, or allegedly stolen Tom Brady's wife, and all of the other CTE driven things that he does. That was probably my favorite thing I'm never going to forget that I forgot about this year.
For me, when I was looking up the upsets a little bit ago, this actually came up, and I'm going to go with App State's run of almost upsets and upsets at the beginning of the season, and then how badly they finished. For the very first game of the season, they went to overtime I think they went into overtime with North Carolina. Very close game. North Carolina ended up being a really good team this season. They went to Texas A&M, beat Texas A&M, and then they were on College game day and won in the very last second against Troy. So everything was coming up App State, and then they just turned to shit and started on fire, and they ended really poorly.
They started on fire.
Yes,
I dig it.
I guess it's tough when a team does something like so bad. Like that's kind of that same Rams model where it's like, oh, they were so good, but then it's hard to remember them being good because they were so bad recently.
Yeah.
I had more of like a ceremonious thing that I went with. That it's just one that I thought was awesome and I still think is awesome. But if you ask me a year from now, I don't think I'd be able to conjure it too well. That was the fanfare at the US Open of Serena Williams' retirement. Like they did the whole video, the lights, all of the celebrities that are in attendance. And it was like watching on TV, such a cool moment. And I think it paid great service to probably the best tennis player of all time, greatest tennis player of all time. And I just feel like I'm not going to remember it. And I don't know that there's more they could have done to help me remember, but I want to remember it because it was so cool.
Also this year, and that's great because I think she even was your banner one week too. Was like Serena Williams.
Yeah, she was.
And she is somebody like if we had a segment on here of like greats who retired this year, like she would be number one. There's no 1A, 1B. She'd be number one because like again, we're talking about a transcendent athlete that will be remembered throughout the halls of time. Like she is one of the best athletes ever, and so it's interesting that a sport that you love and pay so much attention to, you wouldn't remember the fanfare of her retirement. But I mean, there's so much that happens in a given year that like it just kind of it happens. A runner-up for me was when Tommy Pham did his whole slap this year because of fantasy football. Yeah, he slapped. That's right. It was Jock Peterson slapped the hell out of him because of debacle in their fantasy football league that they do every year. And so that was something that I forgot that I loved in the moment and was like, this is incredible. That was my honorable mention for the award.
Let's hang a mini banner, by the way. Not an official banner being hanged, but fantasy football commissioners. It's a tough job. I relate. So anybody who does that, shout out.
All right. And Jack is muted. All right. Last one here, and then we get to the hidden awards. This is kind of a mixed bag award. We've got biggest villain, best impression, or the athlete that fixed their image best. Let's start with biggest villain, and doesn't need a whole lot of explanation here, but I think Russell Wilson was the biggest villain of 2022. This guy was dragged through the mud. He was a caricature. He was a literal farce at times. And he is now, I think now come the new year, his teammates have come to his defense on Twitter and things like that. I think he's starting to make his cycle back to like not a villain. But I mean, we're talking about people dragging him under the bus for exercising in the aisle of an airplane on their way to London. People questioning whether or not he was like actually a real person, the code switching, the all of it. His character was dragged through the mud here in 2022. And so he's the biggest villain. Anybody go next?
Yep. I'll go. Mine kind of blends everything. So my biggest villain this year was Brian Kelly. If you think back to early this year, he suddenly leaves Notre Dame and is like, yep, deuces, I'm out of here. I'm going to take the LSU job. He gets down to LSU. He develops the craziest Southern accent you've ever seen. Like he's been a shrimp boat captain for his whole life. Then, you see him doing the dance video and just makes you like hate him even more. And then he eventually gets to the point he is now where he dog walked Purdue today and upset Alabama. He just had this phenomenal season, and winning fixes everything if you're a villain. So that's why I think he's perfect for this category. All three, all across the board.
I love it.
Wow, that's nice. Those are definitely like villains that you love to hate. Mine's kind of a actually just hate. My villain of the year is sports washing, which is the concept of taking sports, specifically governments doing it, to cover up bigger problems, atrocities, typically towards human life or the welfare of their citizens. And we had two pretty egregious examples of that this year. One was the hosting of the World Cup by Qatar, where there are a lot of human rights problems, but it's the World Cup, so we're all going to watch and like, yeah, it's so cool, and look at all these awesome stories that we're getting out of the World Cup. But like, there are a lot of bad things that happened in Qatar this year and previous. And the other was the Live Tour, the I guess you could call it secondary golf tour, that is funded by some rich people from Saudi Arabia, and a lot of top golfers went because they were just giving them a ton of money to play in non-PGA affiliated events. And the consensus that I had seen is, unlike things in the past where the NFL merging with the AFL made the product better and the NBA merging with the ABA made the product better, people think this is really bad for golf. And only a couple players have admitted that they signed with LIV because they want money. But a lot of them want to grow the game. And so you have these countries that have some questionable things going on, but they're showing the world we want to be most famous for sports. And so that actually is like some kind of serious villainy. So sorry guys, that was a bit dour.
That's
They're
yeah.
bad guys.
I think another person who might be not to the same extent as these countries that are doing the sports washing, but I think Dan Snyder could kind of be classified under that, especially what he was able to get away with the whole Sean Taylor statue commemorating that he had, which
Him with anything relating to Sean Taylor is constantly just using him when they do something wrong.
yeah.
And he's the one doing all the things wrong that they need to try
Yeah.
and cover up. It's like making more mistakes to make your last mistake look less bad.
Yeah, it's literally once a year he does something Sean Taylor related, and they all are like half-assed, and just a way to like take the media cycle off of him. And now the new thing that's going against Dan Snyder is Ron Rivera not realizing that his team could be eliminated from the playoffs, which should have got him a nomination for Nathaniel Hackett Coach of the Year, but it didn't.
So what do we got?
Just
We
for
got-
pure recency bias. And the other thing I was going to say, I think biggest impression this year was Julio Rodriguez, AL.
I had Julio Rodriguez for best impression too.
Wow.
Whoa, we got a match. Yeah. Oh my
Baseball.
gosh. Yeah.
Baseball.
All right, you talk about him though.
No, I mean, you just talk about a dude exploding onto the scene. We've heard his name for a long time in write-ups about, MLB's next big star, and Julio Rodriguez was always somebody that was kind of like dubbed as like, this guy's going to be legit. You watch out for him. And so many times you see those guys kind of tagged as the next big thing, and they never really pan out. Julio Rodriguez this year, American League Rookie of the Year, also wins. Did he win the home run derby? I think he did. Regardless, gave the team life to end a 20-year playoff drought. I mean, you talk about like increasing the hype a fan base has for a team. You talk about just breathing life into a dugout. Julio Rodriguez was not only a superstar on the field, everything that he brought to Seattle this year, both to the fans and to his teammates and to just the organization. This guy, I think, made the biggest impression of any athlete this year.
Yeah, co-sign all that. I didn't even have a runner-up. It was just Julio Rodriguez is all I had there. So I'll jump in with the fix their image, the last part of this. I'll go quick. Another tennis one. Nick Kyrgios, I think, was successful enough as a tennis player. He's an Australian tennis player who has for years been like the bad boy of tennis. And
He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he doesn't even really like playing tennis on the record. And so he's always been a weird character. He doesn't have the best behavior on court. But he performed well. He made it farther in Grand Slams this year than he had in the past. And on such a large stage with a global audience, people started to back him. And we actually saw him kind of sad when he lost, which isn't normally something you want to praise. But for somebody who generally has approached the game that they professionally play with apathy, it's nice to see them want to take investment in their own abilities and accomplishments. So I think he's done a pretty good job of fixing his image.
I dig it. I dig it a lot. That is the last written award that we have. Anything from here is going to be under the category of hidden awards. And now, Jack, I know that you have at least one more that you need to bring to the table. I've conjured up some things of my own as well. And so because we were talking about baseball and Julio Rodriguez, I'd like to bring the Rob Manfred Hunk of Metal Award for accomplishments in baseball. This year, I think, was one of the best MLB seasons that we've ever seen. Top to bottom, there was so much good stuff happening throughout the entire year. So this is kind of a hats off more than anything to the things that happened this year. Big Papi, my favorite player ever, was elected into the Hall of Fame. That was a huge thing. Vin Scully, we lost one of the one of, if not the single greatest sports broadcaster in American history. Vince Scully was the man behind Dodger baseball for 60 years, but also called very important football games. I think he even called basketball at some point. I mean, the guy was just transcendent amongst sports, and is somebody that should forever be remembered. Just the color and life that he gave the game from a radio medium was just, it'll never be duplicated. Nobody will ever be or beat Vin Scully. Also this year, Albert Pujols becomes the 5th member of the 700 home run club. Miguel Cabrera enters the 3,000 hit club. Again, this is award for accomplishment in baseball. The Mets effectively ruined the trumpet song and what was one of the best entrances by a closer in baseball this year. They stomped all over that. Also, an accomplishment for Shohei Ohtani for just existing, because he is that freaking good. And I have to also give an award to Yordan Alvarez's 450-foot home run that he hit to center field in the World Series this year as the moonshot of the year. I don't know, like a little like subcategory home run for it. Yordan Alvarez had the most like eye-opening, oh my God, home runs. Runner-up for that was Bryce Harper. It was Kyle Schwarber hit like a 488-foot home run or some crazy shit like that in the divisional series against the Padres. So that is the Rob Manfred Hunk of Metal Award for accomplishment in baseball.
I think
all the recipients.
That's too much baseball stuff, because that also kind of, it didn't trample on one of mine, but it does take down my Super Bowl Shuffle award for best sports song of the year, which was Narco by Timmy Trumpet and Blaster Jacks. That was one of the, you want to talk about transcendent. You heard anything baseball related. It didn't even have to be baseball related at a certain point. You heard that, oh, Mets bullpen, here we go. The closer's coming out. So I did have an award for that, even though, like you said, the Mets sort of ruined it by the end.
Absolutely ruined it. As somebody who played a lot of slow pitch baseball this year, a lot of teams tried to use that as a rally song, and it was always just like, guys, come on. Anyway, so that's the conclusion of that award.
All right, yeah. So then I threw the one that I had. I've got one more, and it is the Brian Windhorst. Why is that now? Conspiracy of the year, which wasn't Brian Windhorst talking about the Utah Jazz decisions. I'm just referencing it for title. It was in chess, the Hans Niemann Magnus Carlsen scandal that got the internet asking themselves, did Hans Niemann have a buzzer in his anus that was alerting him as to what moves that he would make? The anal buzzer chess scandal wins the why is that now conspiracy of the year. Chess, I don't know if we want to count it as a sport or not, but it certainly made its way into the sports media world, and we never got a clear answer. Neiman is suing Carlson, I believe, for $100 million in a defamation suit because his professional chess career is in jeopardy now. But also, it seems pretty likely that he cheated.
With an anal buzzer.
That I don't know about that, but that's what the internet wanted to believe.
At the buzzer. Okay, very cool. My last hidden award is my favorite moment of the year. Pretty simple, but my favorite moment of the year had a lot of context to it. It was Jocelyn Alo's 96th home run of her career. The game was played in Hawaii, and Jocelyn Alo is a Hawaiian native. At this game, there were family members and people from the island she grew up on that were all there to witness this game. Everybody knew what she was chasing. Everybody knew that it could come with any given pitch. And when Jocelyn Alo hit her 96th career home run, passing Lauren Chamberlain for most home runs in a single career at the NCAA level, the crowd erupted. It was a crazy atmosphere at the stadium in Hawaii. She rounds third, comes to home. All of her teammates are there. It was one of the best moments of the year, and I think one of the moments that if you're not a sports fan and you watch that happen, watch that play out, and you have the context, it can be one of those things that makes you fall in love with sports. Like that is right there the essence of why sports are so cool. So that's my moment of the year. And if you guys have something on the spot off the dome, I implore you to add on.
I got nothing. I like your pick though.
I don't. Yeah, that's
All good. No, it's fine. Just say no. And we're
No, there was only one moment this year.
yeah. So we'll move on. It's all good. That's all of our awards, but we still have some segments just to wrap up some loose ends, throw some attributions where we think there should be attributions. And so we bring you one of the wrap up segments here. And this is obviously going to be a long episode. We're covering an entire year of sports, people. But this is the best headline containing a sports figure that had nothing to do with sports at all. And this was a brainchild of mine. So I'll lead us off here with a topic that we talked about on this show that is suddenly no longer being brought up by the national media or even little local media sites that you might see on Twitter or wherever. This is the Brett Favre situation where he was embezzling state money to try to build a new volleyball facility at Southern Miss, his alma mater, with a former Mississippi governor. This is like next level embezzlement and fraud and just wrongdoing by a former NFL MVP and current Hall of Famer. And nobody is talking about it or making sure that it's staying in the like daily turnover of events and media and news and stuff like that. And that part is pretty infuriating. And I don't want to say like that's the best with some of like, this was a really good thing, but like it's the best in that in kind of a backhanded way, I suppose.
Most prominent.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's my answer.
All right. Tyler, what do you got?
So mine's more recent. Mine, I went with Blaine Gabbert, the backup quarterback for the Bucks. He literally just saved 4 people from certain death on his jet ski. Yeah. So he is now an honorary member of the police department in case situations like this happen again. But he was riding around on his jet ski, and the helicopter made an emergency landing in the water, and he rescued 4 people. And I don't know. I feel like this should be talked about way more. Like this guy, literally, I mean, for one, he's a backup NFL quarterback, and he's just cruising around middle of the week on his jet ski. And then he saved 4 people's lives. That's really awesome. I think it's kind of like the opposite of what you were saying about Brett Favre. It has the same kind of shock value, but instead of thinking oh, wow, that guy's a real piece of shit. This guy's this guy's like a
hero. Yeah, he's like a first responder level hero. It's nuts. Great nominee.
That's a best quarterback named Brett Gabbert. I think the Gabbert brothers were out there. But his younger brother Brett, I think, was also there from Miami, Ohio.
Oh.
Yeah. It was Gabbert brother vacation or something. The accounts from that story are also crazy. 2 of the people said their seatbelts were stuck. I'm like, that is horrific to have while the season's still going on. Have this is actual professional quarterback coming saving the day. That was wild.
I just got this vision in my head. It's you're drowning. You're tugging at your seatbelt. It won't come undone. And then, someone comes in, rushes, cuts your seatbelt, frees you, pulls you up, and you're looking at him, and it's your favorite sports hero.
You're oh my God.
It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He saved me. Something like that.
Thank you, Derek Lee.
Yeah. Derek Lee.
Wait, did you guys hear also with that story? Blaine Gabbert was saying that the woman of the group of 4, that she had said something she's always wanted to meet Tom Brady. It was so cool to meet a Buccaneers player. And he's like, this is as close as you could get. I'm the next guy up. I'm like, what a self-aware comment to make.
That's awesome.
The
best headline, Jack.
Brittany Griner released from Russian detention. I think that has to be probably in a twisted way, the not as feel good because of the circumstances of it. But I think that has to be one of the most hellish experiences. And it was also a very publicly talked about, but we don't actually know a lot of what was going on. And I know that at least a lot of people in spheres that I've worked in the past had pretty close feelings on the situation. And so I think that was one when the news broke that it's Brittany Griner's no longer being detained in Russia, that at least for, even if it's just for one American somewhere in the world who's struggling, it was like a quick breath of fresh air. So that was the best spot I could figure to put in what might have actually been the most talked about story in sports when I think about it.
Yeah.
It got a lot of like national, like,
Yeah, it was a big thing for a long time.
So there's the headline.
That was fun. I mean, those were like all like 3 like gigantic stories from this year, especially Brittany Griner being released from Russian prison. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, this next one is called Alt History, and this is like change one thing from this past year. I would even say personal, sports, pop culture, whatever, and it would have made your life better. And I will start by saying, if I would have started the Indianapolis Colts defense and Dawson Knox, my life currently would be a whole lot better than it currently is. For those of you who have listened to the podcast, you know Jack and I are in a dynasty league together, and you would know that in weeks past we had a matchup in the playoffs where I lost narrowly because Cam Akers had a better night than what was projected. I left on my bench 19 points from Dawson Knox and 19 points or something like that from the Indianapolis Colts defense that would have given me the victory and sent me to the semifinals. My year would have went better if I would have got that playoff win. Instead, I sit and wait for the first year player draft that we have sometime in, I don't know, July or September or August, somewhere in there. So that's my alt history. That's what I would change from 2022.
I wouldn't change a thing about that. Well, on opposite sides there. I'll go next with this one. I took this approach in the form of like best headline that could have happened. So the headline that would have made my life better is Tony La Russa retires at 77 to let a fun White Sox team just do its thing. Unfortunately, that was not the case. He stuck around. This team is now quickly spiraling in the wrong direction. And I think our window that was optimistically going to stay open for like 5 or 6 years, we're in like year 2 or 3 of that window, and it is closed so hard. It's over for the White Sox.
Slammed shut with your like fingers in the like in the path of the window, like a guillotine.
And I have to believe if Tony La Russa was like, you know what, it's time for me to actually be done with baseball, everything would have been better.
Yeah, probably. It was a tough year to be a White Sox fan.
I'm surprised that didn't make biggest disappointment. 2 Sox fans hanging out.
I didn't have a lot of expectations with him at the helm, I think was the problem.
Yeah, it was pretty low bar. Like
only Blaine Gabbert could have saved us.
I've always wanted to meet Tom Brady. Oh my god. The one thing that I would change about my life that would be better this year is make myself an inch taller, because if that was the case, I would have had to do a lot less moving around. Early on in my process of professional football, I went to rookie mini camp with the Chiefs and the Falcons, where they both told me the same thing. You had a phenomenal performance. You did really well. You're just too short. So had I been 1 inch taller, I'd be a whole hell of a lot richer and a whole lot less traveling expenses on my end. So that is mine.
It's pretty good alt history.
The Skilo Award for I wish I was a little bit taller.
Absolutely incredible right there, Jack.
Hats off to you, Mr. Coachman.
Oh, man.
The award for Award of the Year goes to Jack Coachman.
Yes.
All right, a couple more here. We're going to wrap up this show. This next one is, as a person, you should always be growing. You should always be adapting to new things that you've learned and changing the way that you think. But sometimes a year just isn't enough time for you to change the way you think about something. And so a hill that you would still die on after the year of 2022 is what?
All right, I'm going to kick it off because this is a message that people can take action on immediately. And that is more people need to watch college basketball that isn't just March Madness. I know the NCAA tournament is like the cool event of the year, but we have already had so many exciting games this year. There are months. There's so many teams. Imagine if in college football, each team played like 3 times a week, right? You're getting that many games. And the reason that I say I'll still die on this hill is because this last March Madness with Miami as a 10 seed going to the Elite Eight, St. Peter's on their miracle run, the Kansas game, the tournament was so good. I think people are telling themselves, I can't wait for next year when March Madness rolls around. Get on it in November, December, January, this whole thing. So I will still die on the hill that more people who love sports need to get into college basketball.
I took this a completely different way. I took it a completely different route altogether. The hill or the mountain that I would still die on is Rocky Top. They didn't get my nod for team of the year, but Tennessee and what they were able to accomplish this year with Hendon Hooker and the whole gang, Josh Heupel at head coach, all of it. I thought that they were one of the most entertaining teams to watch this year. I am still upset that they didn't weasel their way into a college football playoff spot. I think that their win over Alabama was one of the most fun wins in college football all year, and the fallout from it, them parading the field goal post all around town and throwing it into the river. Like, I was so moved by it. Like, I remember even tweeting things like, I need to go to Knoxville and catch a game because this looks absolutely incredible. So a hill that I'll still die on is Rocky Top because I still believe in them boys from Tennessee.
It's a good one. That almost made my team of the year too. That was my honorable mention.
I thought about Tennessee Bama for game of the year also, but didn't quite put it there. So we were all there. All right, Tyler.
Yeah.
Let's hear this hill.
So I typically do get on this podcast and talk about the hills that I die on, but this is a completely different one. And we can all relate to it. If you have friends out there that do something creatively, whether it's making a podcast, they make music, they make art, support them. Get out there and share their stuff. If you just by sharing their stuff alone, that means the world to them. It doesn't need to be like, going out of your way, making a big post. You don't have to buy a bunch of stuff. Simply share it on social media. Simply give them a follow. Share it with someone that might have the similar interest. Like, for example, if you hang in banners, you like listening to Hangin' Banner podcast, share it with your friends, or you're friends with one of us. Feel free to share that. It is not, it's not a cry, or it should not be looked down upon to support your friends who have these passions that aren't quite there yet. That's how they get there, is by supporting them now. So that is the hill that I die on, and I'm going to step off my soapbox.
That's a good hill.
I think even to extend that too, like, I think a lot of people are pretty savvy on how social media works nowadays and how algorithms work on social media, right? So like, do the things that help them the most, right? Like if it's Instagram, put it in your story and leave a comment. If it's Twitter, like quote tweet it or retweet it, right? Like the whole thing about Twitter is literally just, and they're throwaway. Like Twitter is a throwaway site. Like there's constantly stuff happening on Twitter. A retweet to help like expand the engagement of anything. I'm not even talking about this podcast. I'm just talking, if your friend's a tattoo artist, if you are the owner of a music label and you have artists like Tyler Witt, that their music needs to be shared, right? Like any of this stuff, how things show up for you. So do the things to make your friend's stuff show up for other people. I love that. I'll die on that hill with you. We'll die together, holding hands next to one another, Tyler.
Solidarity.
In solidarity. And we name like the best couple at the top. So making the list, the Seattle Seahawks. We talked a ton about the Seattle Seahawks this year. And so they are a part of the All Hangin' Banners team. Anybody go next?
I'll go next.
Oh, I see what you're doing. Yeah.
I'll go next. Bears of all kinds made the Hangin' Banners team. I tend to talk about Bears all the time, so that's why it's on here. So it's fitting that I brought them up.
There was a streak of like 4 podcasts where Tyler was like, bears. Big
and
bears.
none of them were the Chicago
Fat
Bears.
All
Sleepy
around the
time
Bears.
bear.
If you go through and then factor in when we've talked about the Chicago Bears as well, it's like seven or 8 episodes.
That's
so
true. Yeah.
Which is a majority. That's more than 50%. Also making the All Hangin' Banners team, Jack.
Also making the All Hangin' Banners team, Queen Elizabeth II. Long tenure as Queen of England, but her passing generated content for a lot of people. You don't normally want to leverage somebody's death in that way, but when you're such a prominent figure, it happens. And so what were we going to do but talk about the Queen every now and then? So Queen Elizabeth II, welcome to the All Hangin' Banners team.
Also making the team and not mentioned in the Rob Manfred Hunk of Metal baseball accomplishment segment, Aaron Judge is making the All Hangin' Banners team.
moving on. The next one that I have is La Bussy.
Yeah, La Bussy.
Mascot for a Spanish bus company. There he is.
He
Dabbing
made
away.
it.
He should basically be our mascot instead of this bus company, but whatever. La Bussy, welcome to the All Hangin' Banners team.
I think La Bussy could beat Major Tuddy in a fight. Just saying.
All right, man. What a rough 24 hours for Major Tuddy. The new mascot for the Commanders, man. Yikes. We'll talk about that next week.
All right, I'll say this next one because I think there's one of the three of us who probably doesn't want to keep saying this name, but Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday has come up so many times for so many reasons. Most of the time it was talking about what he could be as a head coach, and then the rest of the time it was Tyler Witt wishing about what could have been with Jeff Saturday as the head coach. Jeff Saturday, you're on the All Hangin' Banners team.
Also making the All Hangin' Banners team, as we've mentioned multiple times, for his work putting together some of the imagery that you see on the show here. A friend of mine, Greg Morin, makes the All Hangin' Banners team.
Big shout out to Greg. Thank you for everything you do for us.
Big ups.
The next one that I will do for the All Hangin' Banners team is the transfer portal. I've talked about it multiple times, gone on a soapbox about it. Whatever. It's okay. He's on the team.
I like that the transfer portal has a gender.
I think that leaves one more, right? We've got one left.
Two more.
Two left. Oh God. Okay, let's see.
Yeah. They're from the same team.
They are. I'm gonna go with our favorite namesake of awards, both Coach of the Week and Coach of the Year, named for this man who we might not see in the NFL for a while, certainly not in a head coaching capacity. Nate Hackett, All Hangin' Banners team.
Notice it was Nate this time around. Wrapping up the All Hangin' Banners team 2022, amongst all the names and things and portals that we've named, wrapping up the list, Russell Wilson makes the All Hangin' Banners team here in 2022, and that does it. That is the show. That is your year in review as told by the Hangin' Banners crew. Listen, if you've been a faithful listener, if you've listened all the way through this episode and all other episodes as well, thank you. Thank you. We're going to keep making these in 2023 and hopefully years beyond that too. We're having a ton of fun doing this stuff, and it means a lot that we have even one listener, but to know that we have more than one listener is pretty freaking dope too.
Thank you all.
Don't sound so sincere, Tyler.
Thanks, guys. Means a lot to me.
All right. Well, first episode of 2023 in the books. We're back next week to recap what will be the final week in the NFL season, talk about the playoff picture, where we think all that kind of shakes out, and we'll talk about it then. See you guys, and thanks for hanging on episode 16 of Hangin' Banners. Peace.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that look into sports, Brian. Yeah. And when we come back, we'll have one final look at weather. Stay tuned.